Charme, peace and freedom. Nini, welcome. I'm Queen Mother Imaku. After a long day, I've been up since, like three. I think I've been working online since four, working on my new online shop and products that I'll get to. But we are almost at 2025. I'd hoped to come on this morning, but stuff happens. so um, definitely tomorrow, because of the fact that we're entering into this intense energy right now, with the changeover of 2025. A lot of you know that we have our Kemetic New Year in August, but then we also honor the time frame that we're in, because energetically there is something that is happening around the world, and acknowledging this 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 new phase. So, oh, by the way, please share that I'm on. I didn't announce that I was coming on, so please share. Please hit like, give me the hearts. Also, I'm going to be focusing within a day or two on funneling most of this through YouTube, so it's not spread hither and yon. I mean, it's great that I have this Restream set up, and every single time I think I'm getting ready to quit Restream, then they add some new toys here. They have some new bells and whistles that have fascinated me, and so I'm going to stick with them for a little bit longer. But I'm going to be mostly um, coming through my YouTube channel, just to keep everything focused and in one spot, and then share from there. So please share that I'm on the air and that we are on the air. And yeah, it's late for some of y'all. It's late for me. I know I'm ready to go to bed, but I wanted to keep my word with coming, at least to myself, for coming on today. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot to put on the chat. Brandon, hello. Give thanks. Okay. So the day after Christmas, and I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday and that you're enjoying your holiday season. Um, the day after Christmas was the honoring of Neit and Sobek. They were the original Madonna and Child. We talked about that last year. But here's the thing now. Because we're coming into an intense time, there's so much that's happening in the world. And this is the time of year when we do all the cleansing and so forth. I know that Sundays are major days for me for cleansing the house. But I've been really intensely cleaning and cleansing for the past few weeks and leading up to this time frame. But usually on the 31st, we focus on calling in Sekhmet to help us with clearing out the old and welcoming in the new with Ptah. But this year, we're going to be continuing with the energies of Neit and Sobek. Why? Because Neit, she will remove things like Sekhmet will, but she reweaves patterns all by herself. It's not like she needs anybody, but her son Sobek will remove the Google monsters. Okay, he is great for exorcisms, for any negative attachments, for any people who don't need to be in your life. He works sort of in a similar way to Sekhmet, but trust and believe, he is much more ferocious about it. There is no playing where that's concerned. However, he does have a very loving side, and he is someone that you would call on also if you are looking for romance, believe it or not. And he is also a uniter, much like Kenamu is. And oh yes, because the fact that he is the first prototype, if you will, for the Christ child. One of his names actually is Sebek Heru. He is another one of the Necharu that's referred to as Savior. Yes. Um, so, in fact, the term for him, it's the same as shield, which is Shedi, which is where Ur Shedi or Ur Shedi, which is where El Shaddai came from. Clearing out what is no longer necessary. I'm always talking, always talking about who's in your circle. And this year, it'd really be a good thing for you to think about the saying that you've heard go around. I'm sure you might have heard it maybe about 10 years ago. Will Smith was talking about the 5 people who you spend the most time with. They're a direct reflection of where you're going to be in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, he didn't come up with that. He got that from somebody else. And I'll track down exactly who originated that. But there's truth in it. I know the first time that I heard it, I almost passed out because this was in actually 2011, 2012, right? So it's more than 10 years ago. I thought about it. At that time, I was spending most of my time on the phone counseling people whose lives were going nowhere and who basically were just looking for some attention. It took me a little while to figure it out. Okay, you ask me for advice, but then you don't take it. And then, here's the next problem. And you drain my ear for the next 2-3 hours. I realized then, okay, I got to make some changes quick because I don't want this to be the rest of my life. So I've thought about that again. Who's in my circle? Who is it that I spend the most time with? The 5 people I spend the most time with. What do they bring to my life? What am I bringing to their lives? What do they bring to my life? Are you a giver? Cynthia, how are you? It's good to see you, Cynthia McCall. Thank you so much. So think about it. Who do you spend the most time with, and what do they do for you? I don't mean that you want people who are just going to be doers, because you want it to be a reciprocal relationship. Reverend Tamu, how are you this evening? You want to have people who are going to be enriching. Oftentimes we'll get into situations where we just will end up in circles with people who are just there. They're convenient. There's some people to just keep you busy, right? And I've had situations where I was reviewing when I used to be out on tour a lot. Let me just tell you, there's no glory in touring. There's not. People think it's just some wonderful thing to go on tour, and it's really not. You're tired of waking up in your hotel room going, where am I? You get tired of, oh gosh, I was so many different retreats. I was at a different place in the country every weekend. And there was always some needless drama, mainly because of the people who were there. But I usually took the gigs just to get out of my mother's house, because I was staying at my mother's house at the time. Reverend Thomas has just returned home from Rhode Island visiting my eldest. Oh, wonderful. Give thanks. Looking forward to 2025. That's a great attitude. That's right. We should not be focusing on gloom and doom. We should be focusing on joy and prosperity and fellowship with good people. Now, again, the habit of being in situations just because you're bored, just because you're trying to avoid people, trying to avoid where you're at. Some people may find themselves maybe just desperately, in circumstances where they're kind of stuck, like maybe you're living someplace where you're not happy and you still have time on your lease that you have to live out. although that's not necessarily always the case. Some leases are able to be broken if there are certain things where it's not livable. You know, but even if you have a situation where it's not a landlord thing and you have annoying people who live in your house, yeah. So I found myself running at first as I'm filling up my calendar. I'm so happy because it seemed like such an adventure, right? And I mean, I've been doing this touring thing for a long, long time, and then fell into a little bit of a lull. Moved to Philadelphia, then couldn't wait to get back to New Jersey, and then had a situation where I had my whole ceiling fell in. There was a leak upstairs because the landlords weren't taking care of what they're supposed to take care of, and all of a sudden there was a gusher just coming through my hallway ceilings, and I had a carpeted apartment, so it was just mold. I had mold. That's what ended up moving me back up from Trenton up this way. And I'm figuring it's just going to be a couple of weeks because I also was very sick because of the mold, and it did a job on my lungs. And so I figured it was just going to be a short little while. No, it was 2 years. It took me 2 years to recover. And once I got better, I hit the ground running. I mean, I was touring. But yeah, I really wasn't happy. And then have had to really examine lately all the times where I was, listen, I want to be involved in this. And so I end up being around all these people who I don't really have a lot in common with. You can't really get a whole lot accomplished most of the time when you're dealing with people who have a different set of values than you, have a different perspective on life than you, and where you can't really communicate in the way that you want to. So that can end up bringing a lot of people into your life that really should not be there. So back to the whole thing about cleansing. Now, this time of year, we do head rogation, we clean the house, and we begin the cleaning up of the diet. Now, listen, if you're going to be doing this, get in the very last of your goodies, because from January 1st, well, let's say the 2nd, okay, give you one more day of leeway. January 2nd to February 2nd, we're going to be going into an intense cleanse. This is what we do. We do this, right? But to do this in the beginning of the year is important because we want to set things up correctly for us. We don't want to end up dealing with a whole lot of needless drama, with a lot of interference, with a lot of nervousness, anxiety, and we want to be able to be centered and focused in order to be able to make the right decisions. It's so funny because let me tell you how the divine works. I had this message today all prepared, and I mean, that's one of the things I did when I got up early this morning too. And then I put on the cathedral with Bishop Donald Hilliard, who is an old friend of mine. We were, in the same youth ministry together. And, my cousin is a member of the church down in Perth Amboy, and I watch it live on line every Sunday as I'm preparing what I have to do. And don't you know, Bishop ended up saying a lot of the things that I had planned already to say today. And this is not the first time this has happened. And this has happened with not only with him, but also with like another really good friend that I know who is a pastor of a big church like Bishop is. But my point is, when people are in alignment, the Most High will pour the message into them to bring to the masses so that we're all on the same page and focusing on living in the best way possible. Okay. El Abdul Mohammed Duawu, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. So, so this whole thing of cleansing, why knit? Knit is the self-created. She is the one who says that she created herself. She is the one who is divine timing. She brings people into your life at an advantageous time. One of her symbols is the knitting or weaving shuttle, which is a crown on her head, one of the crowns that she has. And she has the red deshret crown. She's associated with holiness and also with the purity of the Hapi, the Nile River, and the raging rapids that go along with it as well. Um, but her other symbol is it kind of looks like this, like, you know, like somebody going safe. It means no. Knit. Her name has so many different meanings. You have knit, which is the weaver. She's associated with weaving. And then you have knit, which means no, because you are not reaching my standards. My standard is here. I am not going to compromise. And when you get yourself together and reach the standard, then we can talk. And this will no longer be with the palms down. It will be with the palms up and open to pour into you. And for you then to be able to receive. Living according to a high standard. Not accepting just being around any old body just so you don't have to go home. Okay? I've had situations like that where I was in, Lord knows, y'all, well, y'all definitely, if you don't know, I've been married several times. That won't be happening again. Because then I found that there were times I was trying to arrange for me to be on tour so I wouldn't have to be in the house with my husband. Any reason to get out of the house. You go down the street and go to my spot or whatever, just to get some coffee, sit and just be quiet, just to be quiet, but just to be to myself. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing it to escape, then it's a problem. No more escaping. No more running. This is the year for facing what is vexing us. We're strengthened in that way. It takes courage. Courage. You say Keni Kefau, which means I have courage. Now, it can be kind of difficult after you've been through a lot of stuff. And you find that there are a lot of things that trigger you. I can attest to that. I really can attest to that. Healing from trauma takes a lot of time. And, you know, you get to a place where you've reached different levels and you're doing great. And then all of a sudden something happens that reminds you of this, this, and this. And you got to get yourself back into a good headspace so that it doesn't take you out there, because you can end up spinning out there, you know, and get back into a place of being afraid to do this, afraid to leave the house. Che, brother Che, how are you? Please give me a call. I've not forgotten about you. I don't know if you heard that I returned your call when you had called me initially, but please reach out, okay? That's part of my drum collection over there. So, facing yourself, facing your issues, facing what troubles you, what concerns you, and finding solutions. This is the year for answers, for finding the answers to the things that have been plaguing us. How do we live in a way that is still joyful and abundant in the face of seeming adversity. It is more than possible. Our ancestors have done it. We've done it. I'm sure if you stop and think, because the fact that nobody's life is perfect, I'm sure if you stop and think about the various challenges that you've had where you thought for sure you were not going to see the other side, but then you did get to the other side and you put it behind you now and it's part of your toolkit for how to survive in the world, right? You're strengthened, you're more enlightened, unless you're foolish and you just keep on doing the same. But I'm sure that most of you out there are strengthened. And if not, I'm not trying to make fun of you if you feel that you're broken, because that's something to take seriously. But this is the year coming into 2025. This is the year to get yourself unbroken, to become one with yourself and to become whole, to not live in fear. Neit is depicted as a warrior. She is mother, but she is also a fierce protector. And think of what a mother will do to protect her child. I mean, the most normal maternal instinct is that of protecting your loved ones. And when you're dealing with yourself, you want to make sure that you are in a space where you feel good enough about yourself to do what is right for your healing and for your protection. Back to the situation of my being out on tour and in different places where I was just like, what the heck am I doing here? Penny, it's good to see you again. Thanks for coming back. And then you might find yourself entangled in something, but then you have to go to all these lengths to try to untangle the situation. You know, you've got a ball of knots. It's easy to make the ball of knots, but then trying to take it apart so you can get your life back together, that's a whole other issue. So our oracle for going into starting in the Kemetic New Year for us, which was in August, the beginning in August, and then carrying us all the way through August of next year. So in other words, you get the tail end of 2024 and going into 2025 until we have the opening of the year again. We have Rayet. She's known as Rayet and Rayet. And she's the blazing sun. She is reality. There is either serious reality or serious delusion. It's one or the other. And the choice is yours as to where you're going to live. Now, you can go into denial, right, for a while, but if it's going to be a thing where, okay, I'm not ready to deal with this right now. Okay. However, we've been talking about cognitive dissonance. You want to make sure you don't get to a place where you're just in such denial that you're not living in a healthy way. I spoke last time about how a lot of people are choosing to ignore all of the really horrible things that are going on, that are like the glaring reality of what is going on in the world. I'm always encouraging you to do to get involved in your local community, get involved, at least watch your local council meetings so you know what's going on. And you learn a lot. You learn a whole lot about what's really going on when you watch the council meeting. That's because the citizens get a chance to speak and you find out things that are happening in your city that you may not have known about before. Now, talking about cognitive dissonance, there are some people who just take sides and just say, well, I'm not going to get involved. Or they say, oh, because I believe in this, then I'm not going to pay attention to that over there because it might cast a bad light on this person over here. That's not healthy either. Activists who are stuck in doing things a certain way that really are not answering the questions of how we're supposed to live better, ideally should come to a place, especially now, of thinking about what else needs to be done in order to help us to move forward. I'm the kind of person that likes solutions. If you're stuck and you are comfortable living there, well, you can live there, but you're going to be living there by yourself. Y'all feel me on that? How many of you understand and feel the same way? You know, people who are just, you think back 10 years ago. Where were they 10 years ago? What were their lives like? What were their characters like? Okay. What were their behaviors? Are they the exact same people? Then you have those who have regressed. How many can you say have progressed? But then here's this. Have they progressed with scruples? Have they moved forward because they stabbed this person in the back, slit this person's throat? Focus only on themselves and not what is for the greater good for everybody. You know, there's that balance. Yes, you have to do for yourself. When you're in a plane, you know the old saying, there's an emergency, you know, you put on the air, what is it called? I'm tired. It's been a long day. You know, you save yourself. First you get the oxygen, and then you can help the person next to you. Otherwise, what good are you? But by the same token, it can't be a thing of, okay, your oxygen apparatus, something happened and it broke, and you look over, you know, there's a child across the way, and you you fight the child. There's something wrong with that. There's a lot of that kind of mentality in this world as well. Penny says, in the same spot they were in before. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, you can learn a lot about a person when you have them come to your house. I don't let many people come to my house. That's a very serious decision that I've made. And this is after my being the person that used to let everybody come in. Just, yeah, come on in. That was years ago. Big mistake. Big mistake. People come in, tear up your stuff. One time, my then fiance, this was 20-something years ago, had invited his friend to come and crash. Where are we going to put him? Okay. I get up in the morning and I go to my altar to go and light my candles, and I almost trip over this big dude in the floor. Oh, who's this? Well, my fiance's friend, he invited over his friend. Okay. So it just became like the crash spot. And my kids were like, what's going on? Who's that guy? I don't know. Yeah, it was too much. Too much. So now I am extremely cautious about who I let in my house and for how long. And you just observe how people are. They just help themselves to your stuff, disrespect your stuff, go around touching your stuff they have no business touching. I can tell you, when there are people like that, that's their last visit. I used to have more tolerance when it came to that kind of thing. I don't. Because it is always proven that a person who doesn't respect the boundaries in your house does not respect the boundaries in your life either. Become siphon, okay? So as I continue patting myself on the back and acknowledging the fact that I've actually come a very long way, I know I've still got a long way to go. and continue to do that work on myself. I've also done a lot of soul searching in terms of my career. You know, when I was out touring as a musician and vocalist and storyteller and poet, be lugging my drum along. Okay, a lot longer in the tooth now, and I have to be very honest with you, it's really not as fun. And I find that the culture has changed. It's very important for me to be able to teach others about drumming because I shared with you how recently I was performing with somebody who was just not even in sync. It was all about this individual. In drumming, you're supposed to be working together. It's community. You know, it's just like with an orchestra. Everybody has their part, but you've got to listen to each other. You're keying off of each other's energy. Also, from a musician's standpoint, you've got to listen to each other. Also, ideally, you're feeding each other. And by doing that, you're feeding those who are listening. It's about healing. It's about technique too. Listen, I'm a stickler for technique. As a musician, I'm very much a stickler for technique, but I'm also a stickler for protocol. There are strong protocols when it comes to African drumming. And if it's just all about just playing louder and not having any sensitivity, then you're missing the point. And from an African Caribbean standpoint, it's never been about that. So, as a cultural educator, I'm focusing on how it is I can most effectively reach out to a number of young people and adults too. You know, I'm very much about the intergenerational thing. I've still got my dream in my head. I've tried to execute for the last 25 years of having an intergenerational African Caribbean drum corps. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I've worked toward it, and it was starting to come together at the last school that I taught at, and then COVID hit. You know, so Reverend Tamu says, boundaries reminds me of a quote unquote friend who would come over and immediately start searching my fridge. Oh no, oh no. That drove me crazy. We weren't that close, but she would just start rummaging my fridge without asking. Oh no. No, you got to go. That kind of person's got to go. Mm-mm. Yeah, you were good to tell her that it wasn't cool. Yeah. Elaine, how are you? Give thanks and praise. Thanks. It's good to see you here. So, what are your goals that you have for 2025? I know financial stability is absolutely a huge goal of mine. You know, I wanted to wait until I got divorced before I went to real estate school. I got divorced last year, and this summer I went to real estate school. And I'm so excited about that because it's important for us to have as much education about finance, about um, anything that has to do with our stability. That's why it's important to know what's going on in your government. That's why it's important to speak out and be involved. That's why it's important to take as many classes as you can to learn as much as you can about building abundance. It's also a good thing to have community. Again, knowing who your friends are and knowing where the resources are so you can help one another. Abundance takes a number of forms. It's not always about the dollar. It's about the worth. Okay. And what you're able to do to help each other to not just survive, but also to thrive. And you want to have people in your life who want to see you succeed and who you want to see succeed. Yes. Reverend Tamu says, fully stepping into my power, financial security. Yes, yes, yes. Deepening my spiritual practice and thus my ministry to life and others. Absolutely. For those of us who are ministers, um, we do a lot of introspection all the time, but especially at the end of the year, we do an assessment of what our work was for the community, for the people that we serve. Could we have done some things better? Are our own relationships with the Most High deeper? Um, are we wiser? Sometimes you need a break. Are you giving yourself enough of a break so that your health is not constantly being broken down because you're in go, go, go mode all the time? I used to keep my phone by my pillow just in case somebody called me in the middle of the night. I opened myself wide open. I just left myself wide open to letting people just figure they could call me because they knew that I said my phone is right by my, listen, if you have an emergency, it's no problem. Yeah, it's a problem because sometimes I get phone calls and ultimately it'd be like, why is this person calling me? This is really not an emergency. You're being lonely in the middle of the night is not an emergency in my world. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you're lonely, but listen, put the TV on, put the internet on, figure out why you don't have other people in your circle that you can talk to besides your minister who, yes, we're here to talk people down if they're really going through something. But I don't mean like, wow, I'm bored and I can't think of anybody to talk to. I'm going to call Queen Mother. Don't call me. Okay. Don't call me unless there's a serious emergency. And this is calling for you to step into your shoes of strength and really figuring when to ask for help. Now, listen, I'm not saying don't ask for help. It's important to be able to ask for help. That's what building community is about. But there's that growth piece. What's the next thing that you need to do in order to not be so dependent on other people to complain to, or, if you don't feel fulfilled? Now, I'm not saying to fill your life with some nonsense on TV or some addictive behaviors online that you don't want to get involved with. Okay. What I am saying is going back to the whole thing about focusing and centering yourself. Take the time to really stop and think, okay, why am I in this situation? What can I do to get out of it? Do I need help? Okay. Who do I reach out to with respect to boundaries now? Now, if you're in a domestic violence situation and it's the middle of the night and you're dealing with some serious stuff, then yes, absolutely, please call me. But otherwise, rethink that. Reverend Tamu says, blessed boundaries are so important. Being judicious and discerning with our energy. Thank you for saying that. Discernment. That's the other thing I wanted to bring up. Because that was on my mind early this morning as I woke up at 5 o'clock. No, I woke up at 3 and meditated for a while and then got up. One of the reasons that we do so much purification as Kemites is because we want to make sure that our vessels are pure. I was talking about cognitive dissonance. If you are someone who is completely divorced from reality, then that means that your antenna is broken. Either it's broken, you broke it, or you let somebody else break it, or you're just ignoring it. Whatever the case, you're not tuned in. if you make the choice knowing that you have so many red flags telling you that the situation is not right. Okay, I'm in this group, and this whole group has fallen under the spell of the leader because they've got charm. Maybe they've got some good metaphysical stuff going too. People can do that where they can just cast their energy over an entire group, and people will be just so utterly enthralled. I was in a church service years ago, back in the 90s. It was at the church that was associated with the seminary that I graduated from, Metaphysical Church. This dude, I don't know if he's alive, but he's whatever. He was known in the congregation as Wally the Groper. The Groper. I don't know why they let him stay in the ministerial program. I don't know why, knowing that he had a problem where he would ask women to come, let him do some healing work on them. But somehow his hand would end up underneath their bra, or he would tell them to take the bra off, and he'd be groping them, right? I know he didn't grope me, okay? But I heard, he was such a wonderful healer, right? Just be careful. I'm like, okay. All right, but I went and to his, he had a private area in his home for his little, healing space. And he asked me if I'd be more comfortable if I unbuttoned my shirt. I said no. Oh, okay. And what can I said, I don't want you touching me, okay? Whatever healing work you got to do, you can do it without touching me, okay? So he did. I didn't find his energy to be all that spectacular. And then a friend later found out. She was like, "Did you go to Wally's?" I said, "Yeah." Did he get you to take your shirt off? I said, "No." And so I said, "Did you go?" And so she said, "Yeah." And she ended up out of her shirt. Okay, why? Why would the elders, knowing that this dude has this problem, why would they let him get up and preach? Because you see, everybody who was in the ministerial program had to take their turns in getting up, and we all had to have our Sundays to bring a sermon. This dude, first of all, he did a series of metaphysical energy tricks. I've been in the game a long time. I said, "Oh no, he's not doing this." There's a breathing technique that you do that throws people off and gets them just vulnerable. And then after that, then you throw the hook out and you reel them in. That's for unscrupulous people. When he started with the whole breathing thing, I said, "Oh no." And I just sat there and I watched him. And like that, most of the congregation became like putty in his hands, just and his sermon was garbage. Okay, I mean, he just said a bunch of whiffery, and afterwards, people were like, "That was the most amazing sermon I've ever had. Oh my God, I've never heard of such a wonderful message. Oh my God." There are people like that. There's a performer I've been watching on YouTube. He's deceased, but he was a master showman. And I've been fascinated with his videos because this dude was doing juju on stage. He was doing all these different hand gestures, right? I'm watching him. I'm like, wow. I mean, and this artist was so well loved. He was a magnificent talent. He truly was. But this dude was working the crowd. There are just people like that. So if you don't know how to keep your shields up, then you can become prey to an individual like that and end up in a group where everybody is under the spell of this individual, even though they've shown different things about their character that has not been great. Usually they're narcissists who end up doing things where the group ends up having to rescue them from that person's folly. And they do it because they're so energetically hooked into this person, or vice versa. And also because there's this pride thing where they don't want to show that there are any cracks in the group. All right, so they'll just be there with their finger in the DYKE dike. Okay, it's a anyway. But the whole patching up the holes all the time and just pretending that there's nothing wrong. Leaks all over the place, flooding. Everything's fine. Nothing's wrong. If you continue in that, then your discernment gets just absolutely shot. And then people come along and recognize, hey, this ain't right. They become ridiculed by the rest of the group. Why? Because they're now so invested in just protecting this individual who has been, roping them along. A lot of cognitive dissonance. And people don't realize just how much they function on that. Are there any questions so far? Let me tell you what you need to do between tomorrow and New Year's Eve. Again, this is your choice. I am very much about people thinking for themselves. Over the years, I've had people come to me who are expecting me to tell them when to scratch their nose, when to scratch their head, when to scratch their behind. And I tell them, you got the wrong person. I can point you to any number of places you can go if you really want that. But that's not the focus here. The focus here, at least in my circle, is cognitive thinking. To be able to think logically, to know how to do research, to retrieve the information for yourself. Yes, there is faith, absolutely, but there is not dependence. What we want is interdependence so that we are working together. And if that's the case, then I'm not going to tell you how to run your life. I'm not going to tell you when to cross the street. I'm not going to tell you if you should cross the street. No. I'll warn you if there's somebody across the street with a bat and they're trying to do some work on you, okay? If you choose to cross the street after I warn you, then I can't do anything, all right? But at least I've done the right thing. I've warned you, right? It's up to you then to decide what you're going to do. But in the meantime, don't put it on me. Don't put your life on me. Don't weaken yourself so that you can't make decisions for your life. Penny says, taking my spiritual walk a little higher now. Even though my relationship with the Most High is high, I want more and to give. Give thanks. Give thanks. The thing is that there's never a limit. We refer to the Most High. Well, there are several names. There's Nebuchadnezzar, which is the all, the master. This is where mastery comes from, and the master. Neb is the root, which means mastery and all and Lord. Someone who is a master of something is someone who knows just about everything there is about something. But Nebuchadnezzar, and there's also Netcheru, which means, the Netshir, which is the limitless one. We believe that the energy that is within is of the divine, and it is without. And we believe that it is limitless. That's why we talk about limitless potential. Now, I mean, there's reality too. Like right now, if I were to jump up against the ceiling, I'd smack my head. But there's also the point where, okay, have you ever like hurt yourself and something seriously should have happened, something more serious should have happened, but at the time you were thinking, oh no, I can't let this happen right now, and it didn't happen? See, that's part of that limitless potential, because a lot of it is also about how you think. So shifting your consciousness, but see, that again is a lot of work, a whole lot of work. But my point is, our relationship with the Most High, no boundaries. Not meaning that we should not have proper boundaries in our lives. We talk about Ma'at, which is mispronounced Ma'at. And Ma'at is boundaries. When you recite the 42 principles, I have not done wrong, or I will not do wrong. I will not steal. I will not immerse myself in depression. This is declaring to the universe how you're going to conduct yourself in the world, so that you don't end up encroaching on somebody else's boundary line. In order to survive in this world, we must understand and respect boundaries of one another. Otherwise, anybody could just come walking into your house and just take anything. That's why we have locks on doors, because there are people who don't have good sense or are desperate and may just come in and just take whatever they see. Or they can come as a guest and end up leaving with some stuff, and you realize later, like, hey, what happened to my silverware? We need boundaries. And on the one hand, as we become closer to the Most High, we have a greater understanding of the boundaries, because we have a greater awareness of being mindful of what our actions do to others, how they affect others, and how others impact upon us. If we act in the best way possible, then we have a greater chance for living harmoniously. Now, of course, people have different views as far as what that means. This is a culture. Different cultures have different rules when it comes to certain boundaries. I had a guest stay with me. This was like 2013, and I was doing Airbnb then. That's when I was living in Elizabeth. And so the young woman was I think she was from Korea. It was an Asian country. She was very nice, and she was just so bowled over by the fact that I had all this food laid out for her, that I would cook for her and so forth. And she made sure to make a lot of noise when she ate. And when she finished, she let out a big burp. And so I said to myself, you've heard of this, okay? She's showing pleasure. She's trying to say thank you. It's a cultural thing. Okay. At least I know and I understand, right? But is that something that in general we do or encourage here? No. But because I understood her cultural background, I was able to take it as a compliment. And I couldn't say to her, get out of my face with that, you burping and all that. I couldn't do that, I had to be a gracious host. So yeah, again, understanding where we're coming from and why we do what we do. This is why I'm so fascinated by culture. And this is why I encourage people to take the time to learn about other folks' culture, so that way we don't misinterpret things, so that way we understand the history of why certain people do things, and even why we do things, okay? Um, but ultimately, in knowing that there is some kind of a reckoning that should take place if we're going to live in this world together, then this is where the whole thing about compassion comes in. And you know so okay, the cleanse. So I'd given a certain formula last year for head rogation in Chenu. We have a certain formula for those of you who are listening who are in Chenu. If you forgot the recipe, then you can contact me. Just shoot me a text tomorrow, okay? And or if you when you see this, it is going to be the 30th already. You want to make sure that you do the head rogation. For those of you who don't understand what that is really doing a good job of cleansing, washing your hair and your scalp. All right. This is the area of ashe. In the Kemetic tradition, it is um, the cherit, the crown. And this is the connection point with the Most High, with your higher self, with your spiritual crew. If you don't take the time to have a proper cleansing, and usually it's advised that you have your priest or priestess do it, and I don't mean just any old body, because listen, I don't let anybody touch my hair. People always ask me about my locks. How long have you been growing your locks? My cousin asked me the other day, because she's thinking about locking her hair. And so I was telling her since 2001, and, a few times a year, I cut 4 to 6 inches off of it so it doesn't get too heavy and so it stays healthy. But also, I didn't share with her, I know that if it is lighter, then I don't have a burden that, where I'm constantly feeling a tug because my hair is too heavy, because actually these are antennas for us as well. So you have to take good care of your hair and be very careful about who puts their hands in your hair. I have not been to a beautician since 2001. And I used to be even more obsessed about making sure that as soon as the new growth started growing out, that I twisted. And over twisting is not good either. So I stopped doing that. So you want to really be tuned in. And so, if you don't have a priest or priestess that you're dealing with, who you would trust to be able to do your head rogation, then you do it yourself. And you want to make sure that you have a white towel if you have it, if not, just a clean towel that you finish cleansing your head with. You have certain oils, and take the time to really protect the scalp and the hair. It's a ceremony. It's a sacred ceremony. Also, you want to take a spiritual bath. Now, if you want more information about that, then again, you can reach out to me. That can take different forms, but the term makaya is used in the Vodun tradition. It means leaves. Makaya was also a great warrior and freedom fighter, but the term makaya means leaves. Well, in the Kemetic language, I found that the word makayu means leaves, foliage, plants. So there's also a connection with Mechurt, who is an aspect of Nit, who is the great mother of fullness, and who is mother of Re. Nit is also considered mother of Re, but again, this is another aspect. And you think of purity, and we're talking about Nit. She wears the Deshret crown. Desher or Deshret means holy, sacred. It also means to beautify. What Deshret means to beautify. So as we protect our heads, cleanse our heads, adorn our heads, and also cleanse the home and adorn the home, then we think about the process of what it takes. Like, how good it feels after you take a really great bath, or even after you get out of the shower, and you do the whole process, brushing your teeth and flossing, and the oils that you put on. I know I put on sacred oils every day. The whole ritual that you go through after you get out of the shower or the tub, it feels really good. So it's just extended. You have time if you have a tub and you're able to take a bath, because I recognize that not everybody does. We have a lot of shower stalls now that people are putting in their homes. You have the bench on the side, but even so, you want to be able to spend that time in water immersed in a mixture of leaves. And in order you want it to be able to have a positive influence on the water. These are leaves that are prayed over. You can pray over them. If you don't know how, you can reach out to me. And this is a way of showing gratitude to the Most High for still having your body, still being here, but also recognizing that your vessel is divine. And because of that, you have a responsibility to take care of that. In the Kemetic practice, we are aware of that every single day. Every day. Doesn't mean that you eat perfectly all the time, no. Not necessarily. But I can tell you that I'm not about processed foods. In the book of Ankh-Shushanki, no, I'm sorry, of Amenemhotep, it talks about the importance of having a properly balanced diet, not having so much rich meat, okay? Being satisfied with good, healthy grains and vegetables. Now, as far as the grains are concerned, you don't want to overdo with that either, because in the book of Pebor, it talks about the importance of not eating too much bread because it's not healthy for the diet. Balance. Now, in the summer, our cleanse is generally a little more liberal. It used to be more severe, where we would do 42 days, 21 days of raw food, and then 21 days of juicing. So now we have a different diet where we just listen to the body. And, if you're a meat eater, then you would cut out the red meats, maybe just do fish. If you're a vegetarian, then maybe you go vegan, that kind of thing. But with this, especially after coming out of all this holiday food, it's the time to detox. Always mindfully, not going overboard, but sacrificing is something. We always talk about what sacrifice is in our community. Sacrifice is personal, what you're willing to give up. And it's also an act of kindness that you do for others, because you're sacrificing something that's important to you in order to help somebody else is going to be honored. And you don't do it because you're looking for the come up. Okay, well, I gave up this, and so now I'm going to sit back and wring my hands and wait until I get my, it's not like that. You do it from the heart. I'm just telling you that the universe does end up rewarding you. But doing it with intention. Everything is about positive intention and integrity. Okay. Okay. Let me just take a little break now before I close. I want to show you what I've been working on I have all these new illustrations in my book, and I created them for the book, but also so that I could put them on T-shirts. And I created them over a year ago, and so I had certain goals for myself from a business standpoint, um, especially because the fact that I'm revamping my business, and especially my online business. So today, my goal was to get up all the art on T-shirts. Okay, so let me just share that with you. It was a lot. Shawanda, how are you? So good to see you, my sister. It's good to see you. You can find these on my website. You'll see the address at the bottom, which is imaku.info /t-shirts. And that's the letter T and the word shirts together. Not TEE, just T-shirts together. Okay. You'll see. So let's see. So this is a sample of two of the shirts. This is the one with our logo, Shenu Living. And then the other one is for Comedic Yoga. You all know the Shenu Living. Well, maybe you don't know. I do graphic art. I'm an artist in a lot of different ways. But one of the things I really enjoy is doing graphic art. So that's my graphic arts with the Shenu Living logo. And then I've been having a ball playing around with AI. I have to tell you, I really resented AI at first as an artist, but I also found that you can be extremely creative and not be quite as ticked off if somebody steals your work, okay? So there's also this. Now I have 21 different t-shirts. This is of Beset and Besu and of Wajor. Now, for those of you who don't know, in Shenu, we deal with I don't want to say lesser known, but the pre-dynastic and actually the most potent of the Necheru, who are of the water tradition and who are connected to water in some way. You find out from taking the classes. And then I lastly want to show you this. That's my interpretation of Jehuti as the wise man of the lake. It's an older man with long white locks and wearing blue because that color is associated with Jehuti because he is true and he is just. And then we have Hatmeit, who wears the fish crown and who also was one of the earliest depictions of Madonna and Child, along with Neit and Sobek. Okay, so there's that sampling for you. You can visit my website. And the store has been all recategorized, and I'm still moving things from one page to another. imaku.info /store. Now, I should also tell you, I'd mentioned last time that I'm going to be starting classes again. So there are two specific classes that I'm starting, and these are going to be short. Well, one has the goal of being a year-long class, but I'm learning that it's better to have just short classes with different topics for folks to take in the way that you would in school. All right, so that you've taken this, you get credit for this and this and this. So the class I've been asked about the most has been my Comedic Rune class. So I'll be posting about that tomorrow. But I'm also starting the Comedic Red Tent again, Heb de Share. I've tried to get that launched actually for the last 15 years, and we've had different incarnations, but um, I'm in a different place now, and my discernment is greater now. There are some people who should be in class and some people who should not. So we're starting again. We're going to try again. No, we're going to do this again. There's information at my website regarding Hebdashir. You'll see the link that says women's group. With that, you'll learn about women's empowerment through the Kemetic guardians, through the Necharu, the Kemetic water guardians specifically. I love doing classes where we do art projects, and there will be. And it's not like just some, okay, so draw how you feel. That, like, listen, that has value. I go to art therapy, okay? One of the things I do is art therapy. I teach it, and I also take it for myself. But these are actual projects of sacred things that you would need, and there's also a lesson that goes along with these projects. I'm going like this because one of them is well, actually two of them are clay. So anyway, I'm inviting you to join. This will be a combination of live classes and video classes. So meaning a combination of Zoom and pre-taped video classes that you'll be able to access at your convenience. For the Rune class, I want to see who's in class, because there are not a lot of people who have this information. People who have truly graduated from me have that information. There might be one person out there, I think, who got the information from somebody else who graduated from me, who I should have never let graduate, but that's another whole thing. But if you encounter anybody out there doing a Kemetic rune consultation, then you need to check first and make sure that they actually graduated from me. There are people out there who say that they did and have not. There's a video that's on my Facebook page. That's dealing with that, and it's actually gotten the most views of any video that I've done. But anyway, so with that, for the sake of accountability, I want to see who is in class for accountability's sake, for integrity's sake. Okay, so that will be a live Zoom. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? You know what? Every time I get tired, when I get super tired, I start getting clumsy. Thank you for that, Sister Shawanda. Okay, so if you are part of Shanu, even if it's like part of Shanu adjacent, okay? You've been around, you know, or if you are one of the students or one of the godchildren or one of the initiates, and you want to do this cleanse starting January 2nd, going all the way to February 2nd, which is the day that Neit is honored. Once again, there are a lot of holy days for many of the different guardians, and she's one of them. And also, it's the day for Sekhmet. Mm-hmm. So we'll be ending the purification cycle on the holiest of purification celebration days. How's that? Okay. Also, there's a video that I did last year regarding the Comedic Magi. It's posted. I want to tell you, I was watching it the other day because there was something in there that I needed to just check, because I'm doing research all the time. And so I'm watching, you know what? I was in agony last year. I was really in agony. It was very obvious that it was taking me a long time to get my words out because I was in so much pain. So even though I'm still healing, I'm better than I was, like I keep saying to you all. But just looking back at last year, I was like, wow, y'all are good, okay, to hang in there with me. When the conversation was just kind of like pulling, pardon the pun, pulling teeth at times. But um, but I can also say give thanks and praise because the fact that I'm just so much better, so much better. You get to the other side of things, you hang in there, and if you're positive, and if you do the work, and working on yourself is a daily thing. There are some days that are more challenging than others, but by the same token, the lesson is the blessing. And there are blessings in finding wisdom in the lessons. How about it? Okay. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to close and I'll be back with you tomorrow night. That's a promise. 30th. And then on New Year's Eve as well. For those of you who will not be out finger popping or whatever, I ain't going out there. Generally, if you see me out at night, it's a rare thing. I like being in the safety of my home. Or I'm in if it's later, then I'm usually in the neighborhood and it's not a far walk. So, but I'll be here tomorrow night and also on the 31st. Okay. All right. So with that, we say Merea, which means much love. Heri, which means be at peace. Teni, which means to be accountable. Jebewi, which means to discharge a debt, actually. I explain it as being merciful. It is the discharge of a debt. It is aligned with forgiveness, but it is also a power that should be wielded with care. I'm Kemetic. Therefore, that means forgiveness has a different meaning for us. Who you choose to show mercy to is up to you, but be wise in how you do it and make sure that you learn the appropriate lessons of compassion when wielding it. Much love and have an excellent night. I will see you tomorrow. And thanks for being here. Please visit my online store.